A recipe, in this context, is a set of data. Imagine a production line that needs to produce multiple products. Each product has the same elements, but the proportions of these elements vary. When a different product needs to be made, only the values of these elements, the recipe data, must be altered. Given the limited memory capacity of the PLC control system, especially the power-off storage memory, the recipe data is stored in the HMI. This data can then be transferred to the PLC through the HMI. Here's a step-by-step guide on how to do this. Step 1. Select Component, Switch, Recipe Transmission from the menu bar to enter the relevant interface. Step 2. Click on Open the Recipe Settings. Step 3. Configure the relevant parameters in the pop-up recipe dialog box. Here's a brief description of these parameters. Name. This is the recipe name. It should not exceed 16 bytes, with each character counting as 2 bytes. Data entry. Click on Data entry to edit the recipe data. Max number of recipe groups. The value range for this is 1 to 65535. Clear current. Recipe. Check this option and choose the bit address. When the state of clearing the current recipe bit address is on, the data of the current recipe group will be cleared. After clearing the data, the value of the bit address will be set to off. Clear all recipe. Check this option and choose the bit address. When the state of clearing all recipe bit addresses is on, all recipe group data will be cleared. After removing the data, the value of the bit address will be set to off. The trigger recipe operation bit address is 21 bits in total. When set to on, the corresponding operation will be executed and the bit address will be set to OFF after completion. When the bit address is set to LBZ, the following operations will be performed. Insert row above. When LB0 is on, a new group will be inserted above the current recipe group pointed to by RPI. Insert row below. When LB1 is on, a new group will be inserted below the current recipe group pointed to by RPI. Copy. When LB2 is on, the current recipe group pointed to by RPI will be copied. Cut. When LB3 is on, the current recipe group pointed to by RPI will be cut. Paste. Replace. When LB4 is on, the content of the copied or cut recipe group will be pasted into the current recipe group pointed to by RPI. Copy to next row. When LB5 is on, the current recipe group pointed to by RPI will be copied to the next row. The serial number of the following rows will increase in order without overwriting the original data. Save snapshot. When LB6 is on, the current recipe group will be saved as a snapshot. One-click restore to initial value. When LB7 is on, the recipe data will be restored to the initial value set in the editing state. Restore snapshot. When LB8 is on, the snapshot saved by LB6 will be restored. Upload. When LB9 is on, data will be uploaded to the current recipe group data from an external address. Download. When LB10 is on, the current recipe group data will be downloaded to an external address. Delete row. When LB11 is on, the currently selected or checked row will be deleted during the query. Delete all. When LB12 is on, all recipe groups in the recipe will be deleted. The reserved operation bit is LB13, LB20. The trigger recipe operation state word address register is set to LW0. The value of LW0 indicates the following. 1. The command was executed successfully. 2. The selected record does not exist. 3. An unknown command was executed. 4. The maximum number of records has been reached, and no new records can be added. 5. Another command is being executed. 6. The download failed. 7. The upload failed. 8. The command was not executed successfully. 9. The data was not saved. You can also enable the import-export of all recipe CSV files. Set the path and other information for importing recipe data from a CSV file. Set the path information for exporting recipe data to a CSV file. Step 4. Select the Data Information tab and click Add. Step 5. Configure the relevant parameters in the pop-up data setting dialog box and click OK. Here's a brief description of these parameters. Name. This is the data entry name. Data type. Please refer to the actual situation. Set address. Whether to associate an external address, such as the address of a PLC, to achieve recipe data's upload and download functions. Index data external address. Click the icon to edit address information. Leading 0. Fill the empty integer digits with 0 when displaying data. For example, if the integer part has 4 digits and the actual data is 123, the HMI will display it as 0123. Upper and lower limits. The upper and lower limits of the value can be set as constants or variables. Data group. Check the data group and specify the group length. Step 6. Set the type of address associated with the recipe data and click OK. Step 7. Configure the relevant parameters and click OK. Here's a brief description of these parameters. Action. Includes the press and release actions. Transmission direction. This includes downloading the recipe to PLC, transferring recipe data from HMI to PLC, and uploading the recipe from PLC, transferring recipe data from PLC to HMI. Recipe source address. The source address of the recipe data. Click Open the recipe setting to modify the recipe data. PLC source address. The address where the recipe data is stored in the PLC. Notify bit address, the notification address for data transmission. During recipe download or upload, the notification bit address will remain in the ON state, and when the data transmission is completed, it will be set to the OFF state. Step 8. Set the properties of the indicator light, label, etc., and click OK. Step 9. Click anywhere in the window to insert the recipe transmission component.